My question for y'all today is, isn't atheism as dogmatic as theism? And isn't agnosticism a more logical way of thinking?
No and no.
And why is that?
First of all, atheism isn't as dogmatic as religion because it is not a declaration of absolute certainty, and it is not anything that we're asserting is necessarily true, that there are, in fact, no gods. What we're saying, what atheism is this, I don't believe. There's no authorities, there's no rituals, and there's no dogma, because we're not asserting anything that is beyond question. Religions do assert that things are beyond question, even when they pretend that you can question.
Right.
And the idea, first of all, agnosticism and atheism aren't mutually exclusive terms. One addresses what you believe, one addresses what you know or claim to know. And so they can be coupled because knowledge is a subset of belief. So Gnosticism and agnosticism is a subset of atheism and theism. So you could be an agnostic atheist, and most atheists are, or you could be a Gnostic atheist, and most atheists are not, and it depends on your definition of knowledge. But if I ask you, do you believe in God, and you say, I'm an agnostic, you haven't answered the question, because I didn't ask you what you knew.
Right.
I asked you what you believe, whether or not you believe in a God. And on that, there are only two options. If you believe, you're a theist. If you don't, even if your answer is, I don't know, or I'm not even sure what I believe, you're an atheist, because I fail to see how you could actually believe in a God and not recognize that you believe in a God. I mean, to me, theism is a positive assertion that I do believe in God, and if you can't make it, that you're an atheist. Now, that is, by and large, dictionary atheism, and it's kind of a philosophical look at it. Who atheists are, what we do, what the atheist community is about, it's about a whole lot more than just, I don't believe in a God.
Right.
There's a lot more to it than that. It doesn't derive directly from atheism. It is just positions that are consistent with atheism. My atheism is the product of my skepticism.
Right.
My views on certain things are based primarily on my humanism. These are all they're not contingent upon one another, but they're consistent ideas.
Yeah. The little creed that I quoted during the presentation earlier today: skepticism is my nature. Free thought is my methodology. Agnosticism is my conclusion. Atheism is my opinion. And humanitarianism is my motivation. Yep. And so that sums it up for me. Another quick point with that would be the dogmatic nature of religion is top down. And of course we try to not give that appearance sometimes by saying, now don't take my word for it. Read your Bible and find it for yourself. But that's really an exception to the rule. That's something that is said but not necessarily practiced. The whole point of religion is to follow someone. That's what religion does. That's part of the rite that you're involved in. Where my experience with atheism has been exactly the opposite. It's actually from the ground up. Each and every individual that I've met within the movement has absolutely, they may be starstruck because they're celebrities throughout our culture, but they are not in any way obligated to anyone out there, regardless of how many books they've sold or how many lectures they give. It doesn't matter who that person is. If they get up and they say something that is scientifically wrong or fails to meet the test of reason, they will be called on the carpet for it.
I guess you're saying atheism is sort of like your opinion is what you were saying, is you just don't believe personally.
Correct.
That something can be there.
Yeah, the example. There's a burden of proof that goes with the claim that a God exists. The example that I've continually used is a court case. If the fact of the matter is the defendant on trial is either guilty or innocent. That's the fact. They either did the crime or they did not do the crime. And likewise, a God either exists or does not exist. But the question for the jury is not, did they actually do this? It's, what do you believe about the claim that they did do this? And so that's why juries don't vote guilty or innocent. They vote guilty or not guilty. And those people in the not guilty category may actually suspect that the individual is guilty. There just wasn't enough there to convince them. They don't have to be convinced of innocence. Likewise, on the question of the existence of God, There are people who are convinced, as I am, that there actually are no gods. There are other people who just aren't convinced that the various gods that have been suggested actually exist. If you can't see the distinction between saying not guilty and saying innocent, then you'll never see the distinction between atheist and perhaps anti-theist.
Right. And it also sounds like the same old story of if you have an opinion, then you're being dogmatic. You know, if you're sharing an opinion, you're being dogmatic. And that's not a fair argument.
Yeah, the closest thing to, and it's not even dogma, but the closest thing to a flat assertion that atheism makes is that theism hasn't met its burden of proof.
Right.
And I'll happily defend that in a debate anywhere anybody wants to, because theism hasn't met its burden of proof. No brand, no doctrine, no denomination of any branch of any religion has actually met its burden of proof. And some of them not only recognize this, but assert that they couldn't ever I couldn't ever possibly prove to you that a God exists. Okay, then why are we talking about it?
That's right. Just take it by faith.
Where else in reality do you hear the sort of excuses and arguments and language twisting that you hear in this, the discussion about the existence of God?